Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to round one of the F1 Spring Championship 2025. And with me, we have Oates. Hello there. It's first time talking to you, as well as Michael, myself. Hello there. And how are you feeling tonight?
Thank you very much. We're here for round one of the BUSR Spring Championship. It's the first round for actually our 8 rounds, actually. It's the largest championship we'll have here at the BUSR, along with the other series. And it kicks off here in Azerbaijan for the Baku City Circuit. It's a track we've not actually raced in the BUSR at all in the championship. In fact, the last time we were here was actually back in November, whenever we held the Hot Lap Challenge. Regarding the previous history in regards to the F1 Spring Championship, it's one that could break a lot of legacies, because here it was when Geek actually beat Mata here for the championship, and Cameron Soul was out of the title picture at the final race. And having Searle just won the Winter Championship last time round, I'm honestly really looking forward to Baku.
Yeah, Baku is a bit of a car breaker. One of those tracks that really is incredibly tight, really takes the idea of street tracks to its limits. So it's going to be really interesting to see how drivers are going to accomplish what is essentially a very compromised track, because you want to have a car that is very much fast on that kilometer plus straight, but then also be able to navigate those very, very tight areas inside the street circuit. So hopefully we'll be getting into qualifying any minute now. And in the meantime, How do you feel about going to Baku? Because Baku's been one of those in the real world that has come up with some of the most interesting races in the last few years.
Yeah, it was whenever we first had Baku, actually back in 2016, it was known as the European Grand Prix circuit, and the title of that race was as controversial as the race itself, with no overtakes. However, coming to the new regulations, the Baku has silently been producing one of the best, actually, in my opinion, one of the best street circuit races probably F1 has seen in ages. Like 2017 was really remarkable for its time, and ever since then, it's in the real world, it's always been seen as such of attrition. In the sim world, it's really easily translated, like with that, as you've mentioned before, the lack of run-up space, how close the walls are, the infamous castle section, and well, until the Las Vegas came around, one of the longest straights ever in the F1 calendar, and because of that, it's got a special place in a lot of the drivers' hearts and a lot of the fans' hearts as well. Which means that it's actually a perfect place to start the race, and as well for that as well, it also sets the tone for the championship as well to see where the results settle in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think being one of those series that has 8 weeks as well in the BUSR, um, F1 is going to be one of these series that is going to bring in a lot of the drivers. It's one of those that always brings in the most, especially from many different universities. So it'll be interesting to see how a lot of the endemic drivers, some that we're seeing from previous seasons, as well as some new drivers coming in. So as soon as we get to the track, we'll be showing off some of these drivers and seeing how they fare in what is essentially one of the harder tracks, I think, on the F1 calendar, especially, as you said, that castle section is notorious, especially with someone like Charles Leclerc, who, well, is very famous for that section.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, to mention the fact, we've discussed this before, sprint race makes this like even more complex as well, because it means that these drivers would, onto the sprint races and the feature races, they'll be pushing themselves really hard to set very fast times. So the fact that it's all the more risk and all the more reward whenever these sprint races come around. And the other sprint race that we have is also Las Vegas, which is, a bit the same, but it doesn't have quite the same dangerous characteristic as Baku does. So that means that we can expect this feature race and the sprint race to feature a lot of attrition here today.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at the sprint rounds with the sort of street tracks that we're going to, round one will be Baku here with Azerbaijan, and then we're going to have round eight with Las Vegas. What I like to call the upside down pig. Today, I think we have more of a key looking track with that section again on the top. I think what's going to be interesting is going to be how drivers, again, experienced and some of the new drivers, seeing how they fare, especially on a track that, of course, you're not bringing as much downforce because, again, this is one of those tracks you have to be very much compromised in your setup. It's going to test how well these drivers can drive with the rear wheels of their tires because that's going to be the one thing that's going to restrict them getting through those sections quickly. Not not lighting up the tires, keeping it nice and simple, keep your braking relatively good because making those mistakes, especially in those street circuits, will break your car, or even worse, break someone else's car and cause some incidents.
Absolutely. And, in a track as such for Baku, given the characteristics that we've talked about as well, it's also a testament of the driver's luck as well, because there's a lot of things that can happen scenario wise in terms of Baku. And as a result, all different drivers would have, different strategy calls and, as you've mentioned before, different setups. So often at times in Baku, you always go in there blind. You'll never be able to fully dictate the outcome of what happens to the other drivers around you. So it really just like hope your clovers and lucky stars that the strategy goes your way and you come out very optimally as the best. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, you wish an Alfa Romeo might be on the tracks. You might actually see a clover there if you were really looking closely. So it's really unfortunate. Awesome. It looks like we're going into quali now. So let's see how the drivers will be coming out. As the timer starts ticking down, we'll see the first drivers coming out onto the track.
It's the same format as we've always had before, 20 minutes. But in a track like Baku, we expect a lot of traffic to come around the 3-minute mark. And as such, we've mentioned a bit before about the lack of runoff. So that means that for some drivers, it'll be very hard to get out of the way. So the chance of impediment from these drivers that might experience will be relatively high in the closing stages. So drivers that are going to come out first is going to be really, really important in this case.
I think as well, like one of the difficulties with Baku is, again, because of that long straight, you're going to see a lot of drivers trying to make this backing up themselves and giving themselves some space at the relatively end of the lap. So yeah, it's hoping we don't have that sort of jostling out position. We're going to have the first two cars coming out with Aria and Dasher, trying to do some tire warm-ups for now. Yeah, this is going to be one of those that is, again, we're going in with a little bit of unknowns. We know some of the drivers in the past. So I think of Cameron Shell, we're going to have Geek, Dasher, etc. Some of the people we've seen for years at this point. And we're going to have some new faces as well. So like I said, we're going to be coming up to our first laps now as they're starting to get through that more tighter section, setting up for their first laps.
Yeah, the interesting thing as well, because there's like a wide variety of experiences here. You've mentioned before, people that we've seen for literal years. We've got people that were just coming in after their Winter Championship debuts, most notably both McLarens, and the new drivers as well, including I think both the Mercedes, I believe, are new. So in that case, then it's going to be interesting to see how different experiences way we're here in a track like Baku. Oh boy.
Yeah, it looks like we're just having a localized Sector 1 at the moment. It's probably just cars going a little bit slow. Oh, okay. It may be a bit more than that.
That's Cameron Searle. That's big. I think he's out of the championship.
Yeah, I think maybe not just yet. Maybe doing his Ragathon impression just a little bit further down the track, as again, we're going to be seeing a couple more Sector 2s coming out, and we're going to be seeing our first flying lap. So, do you know what, Oates? Take it away. Let's have a little walkthrough of Baku.
Longest straight, and then coming out through is a series of two 90-degree left-handers. It's the first corner, and with such, the runoff is a bit shorter than that for the second one. And then out of that exit, he's touched the pit wall there. You need to get close, but not touch it. Comes in our first DRS straight of our lap, and following up ahead is another 90-degree left-hander, and then followed by a 90-degree right-hander. It's the first right-hander of the track here, and it's another one with a very closeness to the barriers as well. Followed by a very short straight. It's a shorter series of a less 90-degree lefter and righter. Elevated curbs here will maybe try to spin you out, so it's important to not abuse it too much. Comes in a staggered double apex right-hander, and then comes in the infamous castle section, the closest on the track, and then followed by a right and left-hander, another one close off there. This one has an elevation which goes downwards, and it's known to get the car into a tank slipper. And then followed by that, just fade on the brakes just a little bit for a slight left-hander. That barrier, though, will catch a lot of people out and expect retirements there. It's another left-hander there, and then followed by a series of S's, and then just keep your foot down as much as possible as you can. This is where the downforce would really come into play. But for those that would prioritize on top speed, shall we say, would really need to maximize their car out here through the straight. And then that completes the final lap over at Baku, a series of it determines on what your setup is and what elements of it you can get the most out of. Area sets a 140, pretty respectable time, to be honest.
Yeah, we're going to start seeing the times coming in already. Again, that 140.7 is just the bank for now, but you will be seeing drivers getting that lap time further and further down as more and more risk is going to be applied later on in the session. So Dash is going to be getting a 140.2 just to try and push up that time. So we're going to be having a Sector 1 yellow flag. So we'll see what happens there for now, as we're going to see some of the few drivers coming in. Joe starting to put us into the 39s already. So again, see how these times go down, especially as some of our more experienced drivers will start jostling with each other.
Yeah, Joe's been very silently been a championship contender throughout these championships, but it's always been rather outshadowed by other drivers around him, and well, a lack of consistency in the appearances can put a bit of a hindrance to that. So the fact that he's starting off with the 39.4 is really remarkable. In fact, 5 tenths faster than Wooly is vastly impressive in my eyes.
Yeah, and we're going to be seeing some more Sector 1 cautions in Sector 2. So it looks like we are seeing some drivers making some mistakes. Again, F1 is always an interesting one when it comes to yellow flags because there are going to be some spin outs, some difficulties. Again, we are going to be expecting it as we're going to be seeing a car grinding the road there. It's going to be Aria. I guess probably just letting some cars by for now. And yeah, we're going to be seeing some setup into some more laps.
You can see how Area was just so close to the barriers because he really, really does not want to risk of that impediment from other drivers as well, just like staying out the way as much as it can. Not a lot of room in Baku in order to do that, and especially as the closing stages, as I mentioned before, it's gonna be really hectic and a lot of traffic staying there. You can see with a lot of the drivers just how much they're hugging that wall to just stay out of that race line as much as they can.
I think it's more interesting that we're seeing Joe keeping that number one position at the moment, the 139.4. Cameron Scholl, person who's very much trying to contend for the championship, keep about 2 tenths behind right now. So again, it's going to be down to see how he is going to be setting himself up. Going to be setting up for another main lap. He is going a bit slower, so he's probably just taking a build-up lap. Get on with our next run.
Do you think the spin that happened earlier may have affected his confidence, perhaps? Maybe shades of Ragunathan right here.
I think it's more of just a banker. It's more interesting to see because just for listeners out there, coming from a different game like me, for example, I mostly do Assetto Corsa and Competizione. We see a lot of drivers will build up into final lap, and you'll probably see that again with these drivers, as because again, it's very difficult to see. So you might have a bit more experience than I do looking to see if a car is going on the flying lap. But right now we are going to be seeing some cars pitting, so definitely is going to be some in-laps for a couple of people, as it looks like Cameron's starting to build up. I'm hoping I'm not going to get cursed, and he actually does a flying lap here. It will be difficult because these cars go very, very fast down these straights.
Yeah, he's building up now. You can see in the ERS it's just fully charged now. He is definitely going for another flying lap. He's 2 tenths. He needs to find 2 tenths to make up to Joe. And honestly, with the talent as Zero's, I think it's absolutely doable. The question is that Joe's currently in the pits. Oh, he hit the wall.
Yeah, that's not going to be helping. Especially as F1 has a tendency to slow people down if you hit a wall regardless. So that is not going to be helpful in the times, as again, you want to be looking at the top right there at the timing tower. It tells you a little bit of what that car's time is going to be, as we are going to be going into Sector 2, coming into Turn 5, Turn 6, and actually he's up by 1/10 of a second. Let's see if we can keep it up going into this next session, Turn 7, and then the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 circuit of the castle area. It's always very tricky.
Just look how close he got into the wall in that castle section as well. And it's just slowly speeds up there. We've got someone spinning out while trying to get out of the way. It doesn't really impede much of Cameron's time.
Yeah, we're also going to have 5 cars coming out on outlaps. Luckily, oh. Yeah.
I think it was a yellow flag that has affected him. I think it might have been the yellow flag that may have affected him, or he just cut the corner, so his lap would have been invalidated anyways. But that's a shame. He was really looking fast for that first sector, and probably may have been an improvement.
Yeah, and you're going to be seeing a lot of other drivers coming out there. As you can see, many are going to be on outlaps, so we are going to be having the times coming down potentially, as again, they're going to be coming around this final corner, turn 16. Make sure you have as best traction as you can, because it is going to affect you all the way down that straight. So let's see as we're going to go into our last 8 minutes of the session.
This is where all pandemonium slowly starts to kick in, and we're going to see lots and lots of fast lap attempts now. Joe's now currently on his outlap now. He's looking to try and cement that pole position now. I don't think there's much Cameron can do now. He's gone up 3 hot laps now. This is going to be his third attempt if he is going to go for it.
Yeah, there's going to be definitely a couple of drivers looking to improve their times, especially the ones that are in that 41 section. Because again, if you want to be doing it, as we looks like we're all going to have Thomas having retiring from the session, so that's going to be a terminal damage event. Not going to be able to be improving their times anymore, currently at 14th. And actually, as we say it, Mad Dog has also done the similar action and has also retired. So people are pushing harder and harder and harder, and it is not helping them out in one bit if they want to be improving. So it's going to help people like Geek, it's going to help people like ZZ try and get further up the field. Again, it's going to be for this sprint race, and from there we're going to see our first points of the season on the board.
All that risk and all that reward. The fact that Thomas is, retired as well as Mad Dog. Oh boy, just really goes to show just how much these guys are absolutely pushing it as well. I think qualifying here in Baku really means a lot to these drivers because not really much room of overtaking apart from a few corners, and even so, you can really use this track to advantage if you're defending it with those amount of holes. As I think Joe, I think, is still going on for the castle section now.
Yeah, it's going to keep it nice and tidy. For now, it's going to be really important, especially as they've got nice soft tyres, giving them as much mechanical grip as possible as we're going through this flying section. Again, it's very difficult coming down into this sort of divot section. It's going to make your car a little bit loose, I would say, because again, when you're going downhill, all the braking pressure is going to be going down onto those front tyres. It's going to make that rear a little bit loose, but it looks like it's got through relatively okay. Now just going to keep it nice and smooth. Don't try and burn as much energy as possible, really, because you want to get as much speed as possible going down this straight, keeping it nice and smooth. So Joe is going to be coming across the line as the line comes in nice and close, and as you can see, makes a slight improvement.
He was fastest for Sector 2, which is, really remarkable. He didn't go fastest in Sector 1, so had he did that, deficit would have been even more. As gained actually a 10th, so that could be a really big difference here. It's 3/10 of a breathing room between himself and Cameron Searle, and 4/10 between himself and Willie. They're still out to they still have yet to go out and do their final attempts though. So it's not all over yet for Joe, but it's showing very promising signs of him gaining the first pole of the Spring Championship.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing drivers now come out for their final flying laps as the timer is starting to get close to finishing the session. So as you can see, a couple cars just Joe is letting by some cars as he's doing his cool down lap. And let's flick down further down the field. Ender going to be looking to try and set a little bit of a better time. Again, going through this castle section for now, just keeping it nice and easy, not trying to ruin any of those tyres. Especially as we're saying, traction is not the best in the castle section. And I think it's going to be one of those qualifying sessions where the closer we are to the end, closer the times are going to go down. So we are holding suspense for now, because again, a lot of drivers are going to be going out and setting their flying laps, and actually they are. So let's have a little watch, shall we, further down the field with Jenkins in the Mercedes.
I think he's only done 1 lap so far. He's only a full second within between himself and Joe, so he's still got ground to do, but he's done pretty good for himself. He's
Oh,
thanks, Jack.
yeah, that's unfortunate. It's going to be having a bit of front wing damage, going to be carried for the rest of his laps, going to not be helping, especially as they're currently 16th. If it wasn't for the fact that Rage, which is Ed, has not set a valid lap yet. So, not the best situation with only 3.5 minutes to go. A lot of cars are going to be in the pits, and I think I jinxed it wrong. I think we are going to see another set of soft tyres coming on for the final parts of this qualifying session.
Yeah, Jackins right now is going to be the last of them to set a flying lap. either him or Ender Epic. I think Ender Epic's on a flying lap, I'm not sure. But we'll see if Jackets makes any improvements to climb out. He's had to risk his front wing for it. It's to try and, gain some time and get himself out of that abyss of a second. If it's any improvement, it's a good one. It is a good improvement. He's climbed himself up into 14th.
Yeah, it's not going to be helping doing a little bit of damage because any of that damage is going to create additional drag. And when you're going to be bringing it down a kilometer straight, I don't want to have that much drag. Luckily, he has improved a little bit for now, as we are going to be seeing last of our flying laps.
Ender Epic, I don't think... Oh, he's got a bit of a tank slip for the exit. I don't think he'll go for another one, but I think he might have enough time if he'd be able to. But even so, 8th is really good in that McLaren equipment. He's been a match relatively in the same place as he has been throughout the entire winter season whenever he was a rookie. And this time round, with the new team, it doesn't change. It's 2/10 faster, but he still remains in 8th.
Yeah, and look at the timing screen. As you can see, everyone is going to be coming out for their final lap. So this is going to be a bit of a jockey for position for everyone. So let's see how neat everyone can give themselves a little bit of space. And we're going to be seeing the final set of flying laps as Cameron goes a bit slow here. And he's trying to set up for another flying lap. Might be going for another set of laps. It's an interesting one. Create some local sector breeze. Yellows.
Yeah, I was a bit confused. Yeah. It's using the slipstream actually for the home straight as well from the car ahead. With using that DRS, it would help those top speed. I am wondering though if the slowdown would impact his top speed whenever crossing the start-finish line, but maybe he's confident he'll be able to gain that speed back from that slipstream of the McLaren. Oh, he slowed down.
Yeah, and Cameron's show is still going a little bit slow. There's only 50 seconds left, so it's going to be the end of his qualifying. Let's have a look at a couple more. They're going to be getting some flying laps coming out with just under a minute to go before the end of the session. Last Gen Newt going to be looking to try and get that McLaren cross line a little bit faster, coming in at 140.4. As we're going to be going into the rest of Sector 2, this castle section, keep it nice and neat, and looks like keeps it relatively good going through this section. No unneatness that we can see. Going down into this divot section, one of the more infamous places for having crashes, whether or not you are Lance Stroll or not, but keeps it nice and close. Close you can get, the better. As we'll be getting this last important corner, relatively keeps it okay. And we're going to be seeing this car going down full throttle and relatively fine. Let's have a look what the time is going to be. As the time remaining is done, checkered flag is out, and we're going to see our final times.
He was 2/10 faster for those two sectors. If he keeps this up, he'll be able to displace Arya for 5th, and it does so with a 40.2. That's the highest place in McLaren for Newt. He'll be relatively proud of that. He's the first of the finishers, though, so we'll see where all the other drivers now, as the checker flag drops, where they'll be. The Mercedes of Jackins is the first. He really improved himself. He's actually gone a full 10th faster as well again.
Yeah, it looks like Chaotic actually got the position back for 14th, taking it back off of Jack, and as Wooly has actually got the pole position time provisionally at a 1:39.0. So at the start of the session, we had 0.6s, and now we're down 6 tenths. And it looks like if anyone wants to get that pole, we're going to have to go into the 38s.
Did you see that? Like, Wooly used all the slipstream from Cameron Sorrell, I believe, and as such, it was just such a massive advantage on that back straight. And yeah, Joe hasn't improved. I think that's Wooly done for pole position.
Yeah, Joe got an invalid lap for that flying lap, so it looks like there's going to be no improvement. So Wooly is going to be looking to get the first pole as we're going to have Aria coming across the line, getting improvement, jumping over Geek to get that 6th position, with ZZ jumping over and getting into 12th position. And we saw a little bit earlier, Dasher actually making a bit of a mistake on that final flyer lap and had to retire from the session and ending in 4th position. But this is going to be our provisional grid that we're going to be seeing for our first sprint race. Well done, Wooly, Joe, and Cameron, locking out the podium position for the sprint race.
We can see here Wooly bringing back success to AlphaTauri. He'll be really, really happy with that pole position, hoping to try to make a very good championship start, and all in all, really impressive from him. Really good as well for Joe. Cyril in a quite a unusual position, actually, starting in 3rd. And what can we forget about Dasher? The best of the rest, finishing in 4th.
Yeah, it shows you how much the slipstream is important when you have such a massive straight. We are going to be talking about it constantly tonight because it is one of the defining factors of Baku. You got that castle section being incredibly tight, and you're going to have that long straight where things such as that slipstream, as well as later on DRS, is going to be incredibly important and will be going into both the sprint race and the feature race. So it's going to be exciting, and we'll see how well Wooly can defend from the rest of those drivers, because I bet you they're not very happy for losing that pole position.
Absolutely. But, all 3 of them are more than less capable drivers, and we've mentioned before about slipstream and DRS. So another key thing to know about in Baku is that it's notorious for creating such DRS trains and having groups amongst each other fight themselves. And in a track as Baku, we can see those 3. I'll definitely put my money on it. They'll definitely be constantly fighting for that lead, lap in, lap out.
Yeah, and we'll be going for a tiny bit, but we will be getting our sprint race coming on soon as as they're going to be loading into that session in a minute. I think relatively okay. We only had 4 retirements in qualifying. We'll see how many that we'll get for this actual race, as now they're going to have to be starting to fight with each other on track. And as you said earlier, it's very limited in space going into that city section, and especially with those runoffs as well. I'm not I'll be honest with you. Baku is one of those tracks where, as a traditional driver, person who likes traditional tracks, I find it a very love-or-hate. People love the carnage, but when it comes to actual racing, you're going to be seeing overtakes. It's going to be on that main straight mainly. We might see some in that first DRS section after turn 2, but I don't know. It's all down to how well these drivers are going to be able to defend. Again, it'll be interesting to see how Wooly defends using that battery system. And finally, are people going to make mistakes? And it's with such a wide field, and you saw over 2 seconds difference in time. We're going to see how well they're going to fight with each other on track.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think another thing as well for these drivers is that whenever you're on the constant attack and, the second section and third section is really easy to get things wrong. Like the castle section that we're talking about is just one simple lockup to, have all of your opportunities dashed in an instant. And as such, it's going to be relatively curious to see how these drivers were able to fare in under such pressure. Because the thing with Willie is, even though he started from pole position, he's got Joe and Searle all over the back of him. And even if they don't make their moves down into turn 1 with that long DRS straight, or even the second one from turn 3, between turns 4 to 16, he's going to be constantly in the back of those drivers. And he's not going to be the only one. A lot of these drivers are going to find themselves for a good sector and a half clawed into the back by their competitors. And it's just one simple mishap from any driver, and that's all their positions gone.
Yeah, well, formation lap is going on. We're going to be seeing the drivers line up. So let's get ready for 5 red lights and get ready for the start of our spring championship. Right, 5 lights is going to be going. And we are green. going out. So it looks like we're going to be seeing a switchback going through, trying to get as much as they can, defend from actually the cars around them, as it looks like we're going to be seeing the Aston Martin being swamped around by the cars around. But it looks like Wooly has relatively kept the position. 4 attempts already at the very start. We're going to be looking if there's going to be any instance. We're going to see a couple of rubbings of the wall on our right side, as again, they're not going to be any DRS for this lap. It's going to be enabled next lap. It looks like Wooly's relatively done well. We've got side by side coming up between Dasher and Ender, as Ender's looking to try and get some positions on Dasher, looking very weak there from the position of the car that they have now. And we're going to see a couple more cars having a few lockups. The tires are not going to be fully warmed up for now, especially as you're going to need very kind braking as side by side with Jackens and Quinsel. And actually, we've not seen much so far, as Wooly has kept the positions with Joe and Ara locking out the pole position rolls. We're going to be seeing some damage accumulated already.
You realize how Cameron Searle started in third, has dropped all the way down to 7th, but Aria started in 6th, has clawed his way up into 3rd, and Ender up into 4th as well. So really good there from the people that started 5th and 6th and clawed at the positions. Dasher dropped a position though, and Alpha's also done really well as well. Cameron Searle though, it's a bit unfortunate for him, given that he was in such an advantageous position. I'm not entirely sure what happened to him. I think it was to do with I see, it's the front wing damage that he's had, and it's going to really drastically affect him throughout this entire 9-lap race. Now, I don't think there's much he could do. I don't think if he was smart, I don't think he'll pit, because it takes way too much time in order to do so. So he's just going to be a soldier here. 3 wide down to turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like the Ferrari Dash has actually hit the wall, so that's going to be some side damage. Not going to be helping with anything regarding top speed, as it's going to be side by side with Ender, and it looks like, again, hitting the wall there from Ender. It's very much carnage. We're going to see cars going all over the place. It's not looking very clean for now. It looks like Wooly was trying to give himself a second gap to try and break the DRS, because it is incredibly strong at this track. It looks like Joe has got it back down to 5/10 of a second. It's going to be interesting to see how close it's going to be going down this straight. It's only a 9-lap race, so they're going to have to try and take every situation it has, as the virtual safety car has been deployed.
I think there might be an accident somewhere to cause that much calamity. A virtual safety car will only last for around like a lap or a half a lap, and just people need to keep their deltas and just space them out as much as they can. Try and see what has happened here to cause a virtual safety car.
It's probably just the amount of carnage that we saw at turn 2. There was so many people hitting the wall. You saw cars flying in terms of just hitting the wall, coming off the place, other cars trying to get positions, all taking a load of damage. I think the stewards have thought, we need to start collecting some of these pieces, because if not, the cars are either going to collect them or the fans are going to collect them at the end of the race, as green flag is going to be coming out, and it's going to be one of the worst places to do so. It's going to be dragged all the way down the session.
We've had a retirement already. I think the Mercedes is just in the wall out of turn 14. That's his race over and done with for the sprint race, at least. 6 laps to go. We've had another one. It's James's off as well.
Oh no, it looks like we've had some difficulties as DRS is enabled, and yeah, we can see a car on the side. Looks like had another retirement. So 2 cars down already. How many do you think we're going to get by the end of the race?
12.
Well, that'd be a very good time. Well, it'd be good for the fans. They're going to have loads of things to collect home, but not many for the drivers in terms of points.
Yeah, probably not, but at least it's a sprint race, and there's only sprint boys that are going to come out of here. Searle still down at 8th though. The thing with front wing damage is that from the first sector and the second sector, you're vastly affected, and you're nothing but a passenger coming that DRS straight. And now, since the DRS is now enabled, we've talked about before about the DRS trains, that is going to be all the more prevalent here in the remaining 6 laps or so, and it's going to affect, like Searle and Dasher.
I think one of these things is going to be interesting is, if you look at the timing tower, there's going to be a 3-second gap with Aria and everyone below. This is going to be important. This is the cork in the bottle. If this car gets overtaken, we're going to see a lot of cars looking to try and get their positions as well. Call this the DRS train, and I don't think it's always the best thing when it comes to F1 with DRS trains, but watch that space as it's only down for 5 temps. If Arya makes a mistake, we could see absolute carnage in trying to overtake that car.
You're such a traditionalist. You complain about DRS trains.
Well, we're gonna have a car that can just change the front and rear ring every lap.
Well, how about this for a size season? I was going to say he's not going to use the DRS, but he is going to use the DRS because he would be stupid not to, and is going to take third place, come down the first corner, and snatch it away from Arya. That's going to be a battle for the ages between those two for the remaining 4 laps there. I think we've just seen someone hit the wall, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe my eyes are deceiving me.
Oh god, and we actually saw another car there. It was Cameron actually hitting the wall there as trying to get as much speed as possible, as it will be trying to defend from Mad Dog, and it looks like the DRS was just powerful enough and putting him up to 8th position.
Yeah, great move there. Dash has moved down to 5th now. Arya's trying to look for any move they possibly got. Let's go in side by side actually now for the second sectors. Now we've got a caution at turn 1. That's the other Mercedes. No, other Mercedes? Baby Yagi is also an after session. Jackins is in the wall. So he's having trouble. He had trouble earlier on and lost positions. I thought I was confused, like another Mercedes. What has happened?
Yeah, unfortunately, Jackins having not the best of time at Baku, whether it was qualifying or in the race. It looks like ZZ is going to be trying to get some positions off of Chaotic in that Alfa Romeo, as the virtual safety car has been deployed again. It looks like we've had too much damage on the track. It looks like everyone's going to have to start slowing down again.
Yeah, I think this time, see with Rage is like 11 seconds off. I think he had a bit of carnage. So we've got our second safety car in this 9-lap race, and if anything, it's probably going to set the precedent for how the feature race is going to go. I will say though, and this is going to be quite surprising, or to no one, no track limitation penalties. Oh, he's pitting.
Yeah, I think it's quite helpful when the only track limits you have is a literal wall. So instead of doing some penalties, you're going to be getting some damage instead. And it looks like we're going to be seeing Joe pitting to try and fix some of that damage. It is going to be interesting in the feature race to see how much damage is going to be accumulated, and honestly, how many safety cars we're going to get.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get more than a couple of safety cars here because, well, here we've only got
drive-through.
Man, that's huge, and the safety cars just resumed. It's not really this. It wasn't really the smartest move for Joe to really pit, in all honesty, but. I mean, that's his race-winning hopes done and dusted. And for Willie, I think it really is just his race to lose now. With 3-second gap between himself and Alpha, I don't think that will change in all honesty, Michael.
No, and I think Joe was looking to do relatively well in this race as well, but probably some difficulties trying to get that delta under coming out the pits. It's always a bit of a difficult one when coming out the pits because you have a bit of a tighter corner. It is going to reduce your delta, which is just basically how close you can follow a certain lap time that would have been determined in the game, as we're going to be seeing Mad Dog overtaking, burning as much battery as he can to get past Ender, and it'll probably be okay to overtake now, but it's gonna have to fend for some DRS. Oh no, it looks like we've had some carnage and multiple cars. Oh my goodness, we've had some carnage, and Joe has unfortunately retired from the race.
That was Geek. That just spun around in turn 14, and I think he collected. Yeah, he did. He collected Joe in the process, and the Aston Martin of Yeezy as well. So that's both Aston Martins in a really severe situation. Baby Yagi's got a drive-through penalty for speed on the safety car.
Oh goodness, that means that we've had some carnage at turn 15. Lance Stroll has attacked again, and it looks like we've had some unfortunate action, and our first proper safety car is out already, as we're going to be seeing a couple cars coming into the pits to try and fix some of the damage that's accumulated over this very short but very, I'm going to say, eventful sprint race.
Yeah, for the lot of people that are going to come into the pits as well to serve their penalties, I think Geek and Yeezy are the main prize suspects of those. Only 3 laps to go though, so I wonder how long this safety car period will last. and if we're going to have a final lap shootout towards the very end. A lot of people have fixed their damages though, which is the key and most very important thing. So those that have been vastly affected will be able to go back in a fully optimal car now, and will hopefully be able to see the race to the end of it.
I got a fun question for you, and I think our observer can help us with this. What car do you think the safety car is going to be for this race? There are two. What do you think?
Oh, you mean generally? Probably the Aston Martin.
The Aston Martin. So, let's have a look, shall we? We go over to our leader, and that's a red car. So that's actually the Mercedes. I always thought it was actually quite a good-looking car, considering it's actually one of the more older safety cars that they're running at the moment. But I don't know about you, I really like that car.
I mean, it's German.
Well, Mercedes trying to keep it nice and class, as we're going to see the cars start to group up. So as you'll see on the timing tower, we are going to see these cars group up nice and closely, and then probably next lap we'll start to see some racing again, with DRS coming on the penultimate lap. So this is going to be a bit chaotic, because you've got to remember, everyone's going to have their batteries charged up. We've got a load of people who have either old tires or new tires. So now we're going to see how difficult it's going to be these final sections. I always feel scared about safety cars, because safety cars usually breed more safety cars, especially on a straight circuit like this one.
Yeah, it's what was his name? Someone used to tell me at one point, you always have to be alert on a street circuit, and you know, I think that's very sound advice from that former F1 driver. He went on to be an analyst.
Oh boy. Well, that's the usual punditry. Start out driving, then we're like, well, guess got to talk now.
Thanks, Julian. We respect you.
Yes, we enjoyed you as a great Renault driver. So
you sound so surprised.
Julian wasn't a bad driver, I think, but also a coincidence of being there at the same time. So I think when you think about these drivers, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't around when Julian was driving. I came back in F1 during the pandemic. I was one of those people who thought, I'll just go watch a couple of races, and well, I'm here now. I'll be honest with you. So
if you want context for how good Julian Palmer was, he's kind of like Sergei Sirotkin.
Oh, so notable for keeping up with some very fast drivers in a very annoying fashion.
No, unforgettable. No, forgettable.
Could be worse. It could be Mazepin. It could be Latifi.
Who?
Yeah.
Who?
Well, you know, everyone's
Latifi's
favorite
good.
Jordanian driver. Currently, actually, probably doing Asian Le Mans at the moment. Don't know if we're still having that at the moment. And looks like safety car is going to be ending. So all the drivers are going to be nice and backed up, as Wooly's going to be wanting to go as late as possible. Try not give the draft effect to all the cars behind. This is going to be terrifying. We're going to be seeing the cars already starting to spread out a little bit.
This is going to be a NASCAR race. Just look how they're forming into... Look how they're going to do a early start. They're so close as well. And the first corner, may I remind you, is a 90-degree left-hander with walls that come in close if you overcook it. There's going to be a lot of carnage heading down to that first lap. It's nearly 3 wide now. 4 wide.
I think of this, I think of Valtteri Bottas at Mugello, as we are going to be going green flag going into the last couple laps of this race. It looks like Wooly's kind of kept the second place car from napping, so it means that we're going to see Wooly keeping the lead, as we're going to see Carl passing off, and contact has been seen already.
Don't think there'll be a safety car for that one. I don't think it's not major enough, but it was only a couple of drivers have been collected from there. Other than that, I think everything else has been relatively fine.
Yeah, and
Still way ahead
we've
with
actually
Alpha and
seen some
Dasher.
contact penalties. I just want to bring it out here. Geek and Baby Aggie has both got penalties, so that's going to be affecting them, especially as it is a safety car restart. They're going to be so close together. That penalty is going to hurt them so much, and that's a drive-through penalty in a 5-second. So that's not going to be helpful, especially for Geek, who really is passionate, wanting to do well in this series. Thank goodness it's only a sprint race.
That's the good thing. It is only just a sprint race, so a lot of these drivers that have made so many mistakes will be able to iron them out for the feature race. But it still makes all the carnage a bit more impactful, shall we say. Baby Age without any front wing, he is going to suffer greatly to the very end. Cameron Still has actually done a very great comeback. He was someone that was down in nearly 10th. He's actually clawed his way up 5 places now, back up to 5th, and may be on a chance of a podium here if the DRS is. I don't think the DRS will be enabled in this case.
No, because if you think about it on restarts, we'll actually see a notification if it's restarted, but it'll only be for 2 occasions if it is. I know I don't really watch F1 in terms of the game itself, but we are going to be going into our final
making an
lap.
overtake on Dasher. It's going to be going side by side down to turn 1. I think that fight is going to still carry through. I think Newt has just a little bit of an advantage ahead of Dasher. We've had a crash. Geek's retired.
Wait, Geek is now retired from the session. That is not going to be helpful whatsoever, as cars are going to be going side by side.
He's in the wall in turn 1. So that's him over. And Cameron Still's up into 3rd. He's overtaken 2 cars in a matter of a few corners.
Looks like Cameron Sol's like, right, I need to do something. Looks like we're going to have contact coming up into this last few sections of 13, 14, and scarily turn 15. Actually, no, it's a little bit earlier in the lap, isn't it? We're going into turn 7, as there's only a couple more corners going to this castle section.
This is going to be the lap of legends if Cameron Still overtakes Alpha for 2nd. Starting in 5th, he's already gained 2 positions within the 1st sector. He's only just got 1 sector left to overtake Alpha, and Alpha knows it. That's why he's on the defense.
Yeah, it's only within 3/10 of a second, so that slipstream effect is going to be incredibly powerful, but they've got to get good traction out of his last 2 areas. You saw a little bit of rear kicking out for Cameron Still. He's keeping that within that 0.2 of a second. That nose is very much stuck on the gearbox as we're going to be going down into this final set of straights. Right, we're going to be seeing how much power for slipstreams. You think
here we go.
Enough power?
I think he's done it. I think he may have enough speed in order to carry it through. It's going to be very close onto the line. Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas moment.
And it looks like it didn't quite do it at the end. Cameron tried to cut back in to try and get a little bit more slipstream, but it looks like it just wasn't quite enough. And Alpha's going to be keeping that 2nd position as final cars are going to be coming across the line, as well as Rage just coming very much at the end. And Baby Yagi going to be finishing it out for our final finisher in 14th position, as he goes straight into the pits just to make it even more longer for us.
Very commanding drive from Willie. P1 from lap 1 to lap 9. He fended off all the pressure around him, all the carnage, all the traction, and frankly, really sets the pace for his confidence coming into the next round for the feature race.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a preview of what we could be seeing in this race, which I'm a little bit terrified if there's going to be a ton of safety cars and a ton of fixing in the pit lane. I'm very interested to see whether or not some of these drivers, especially that we saw crash like Geek, doing a little bit better, as well as again some drivers further down the field keeping it on, like Thomas and a couple of others who did DNF earlier in the session.
Yeah, so there's some drivers as well that haven't really showcased much of their talents, both Mercedes drivers. In that case, for instance, because they have only done a couple of laps. So for them, the feature race would maybe make them make sure that they'll need to keep their nose clean and just, stay away from traction as much as they can. The thing is, though, for the feature race, it's still the same start procedure. We saw how chaotic that start was, and with the feature race being a bit longer than the sprint race itself, I think we're bound to have a safety car as well again, but it's just a case of when. And for the feature race, which is strategies are always there to play, it's always dependent on like when that safety car comes, that who will it be beneficial towards. So we didn't really see it here because everyone was on the same strategy, like no pit stops really. But you saw that on the safety car, a lot of people that had repairs needed to come in for repairs. Joe that thought he can capitalize on fresh tires, pitted under the virtual safety car, for instance. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers take that dilemma and their risk and see if it plays into their favor based on that risk.
Yeah, again, the feature race is going to be a 50% race. So that means we're going to be seeing pit stops in play. It's going to be a mandatory pit stop for this race. So it will be down to when to pit and whether or not you're going to be wanting track position and how many safety cars are going to be coming out. Because, again, if you think there's going to be more safety cars, pitting earlier and getting that track position maybe a little better. I think, again, I guess coming from coming from our perspective, looking in, um, I don't really know how this is gonna go. We know that Wooly was very good in keeping the position. It's gonna be interesting to see if anyone can fight that, whether it's gonna be strategy or positioning or tires or anything like that. But I'm more interested to see how well these drivers can be consistent, especially in a very tight and very punishing circuit like Baku.
Yeah, I think everything is thrown up in the air though. Like it's not really often that we have a sprint race that still makes the air like unclear to see how this race is going to pan out. But Baku is really special that, you know, even with the sprint race, you and I still cannot predict a winner here, even though Wooly has been fastest in pole and fastest during the race. We still can't put our chips in and say definitively he's going to be our race winner, just like in previous circuits, because it's still up in the air. The podium places are still up in the air because we just saw Cameron Still dropped from third all the way down to ninth in just 3 laps. That's how punishing Baku is. And given how much that punishment really, really severes your race results, means that neither of us nor the viewers should be able to correctly predict who will win this race.
Yes, I think we are going to be loading into our race session in a minute, but um, just want to shout out some of our partners, of course. Special fact, thank you very much for being a long time partnership partner with us, as well as NSE, who runs many events, not just for our racing events such as ACC, iRacing, but and WRC, but also, of course, for their main games as well. So go check them out if you are a student or even an alumni who previously went to university. You can join these competitions and potentially race people on track like we are doing today. So if you are interested and want to have a look at this, do come and have a look. We do have our links below, whether or not it's on our website or join our Discord, of course. Awesome. As we're going to be going into the formation lab.
It's a bit brighter here today. The skies are shining more so than the sprint race. Maybe it's a sign of better things from the heavens above.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to be seeing a split strategy between some of the top drivers. We'll be seeing a couple of mediums, couple of hards. So, some people wanting to favor a longer time period. If you can see those hard tires, it probably means that they're going to be wanting to run a little bit longer, expecting maybe a little bit more chaos. For the medium tires, probably want a bit more track position in the early phase as cars are going to be lining up, and we're going to be going for our feature race.
The atmosphere up in the air, the tension completely at standstill. And the continuation of the first round of the 8-round F1 2025 Spring Championship continues here for Baku.
Right, and 5 lights are out, and we're going to be going again. Wooly is going to be looking at, we're getting a little bit of damage already further back in the field. Wooly going a little bit wide here just to try and keep the best line possible, as a couple of cars are going to be bouncing off the session. Cameron Sell has retired from the session already.
I think that's a connection issue. I believe he has not seen any damage. I think we're getting a little bit of online issues here, but I think we're okay.
Yeah, it looks
No, we
like we're
got
going
a
to be
safety
seeing a
car.
safety car on the side. We can see a safety car board on the side, so I think we might be having a little bit of an issue with our timing tower, as we can see a safety car called out already. So DNF already and a ton of penalties, and we haven't even finished one lap of this race.
This is I'm I'm a little bit lost for words because I think from the start we saw someone that I think has stole from the pit box or has misjudged the timing things, and as a result has suffered a lot of collisions there. You can see there from Mad Dog, he's lost his front wing. He's probably in desperate need to go to the pits, as well as a lot of people here. The 5-second time penalties, though, it's honestly so remarkable for so early on. And mentioned before for back of the DRS trains as well. It's going to be very hard to be able to pull off those time penalties out on track in Baku.
I don't think they could delete them either while under a safety car period. So, I mean, I'd love to see them test it, but I don't think you can actually complete those. So, let's see how many people pit as the safety car is going to start to come out. Looks like Ari's having a little bit of connection issues, but that's online racing for you. You are going to have some people who might have not the best times in terms of connections, but you hope for the best for them. So, let's see who's going to be going into the pits.
Hmm. Um, I'm. What can I say?
There's not much to say, I think. I think we just had a load of damage.
I'm just honestly flabbergasted by just how everything has happened so quickly for all these drivers here, and we're going to expect a lot of people now coming into the pits now to, repair. We've got already 4 cars already in the pits, and there's also going to be some that will want to alternate strategies as well, because Joe being on softs now is completely thrown out the window now because all that advantage is now completely disappeared, and again, he cannot really. Whenever you pit early, you don't really throw away your podium chances at all because, again, back your race of attrition. It's still a matter of just, playing your cards right and just hoping for the best. And you can see here, people actually coming up with different strategies. Joe's coming out with hards, and it's James who started on mediums is now coming out on softs now.
Yeah, I think we've seen a number of changes. Mostly, again, I'm mostly expecting this for damage. Actually, it has actually deleted a lot of the time penalties there. So I guess you can delete time penalties while we're under safety car. I don't know how I feel about that one, but it looks like we are going to see a lot of cars going around. Again, it's not the best time to be changing tires because, again, your tires are pretty much new. It's only 1 lap in, so I think a lot of these drivers are going to be wanting to keep track position for now. And, well, we're going to see whether or not safety cars breed more safety cars as I think we're going to be going for another lap of this.
A majority of the people that came into the pits were changing tire compounds, so they were completely changing their strategy plans and their predictions for how the course of the race was going to go. I think that's why they went to the pits, not more so to maintain track position, but because they anticipate in the air that the scene of the race is probably going to get a lot more of attrition or a lot less of attrition depending on what compound you have. So Joe is putting his chips on. There'll be there to be no more carnage now for a good amount of laps, and it's James is hoping for some more.
Yeah, I think James going with the soft compound, expecting probably a second safety car at this point. So it is going to be a little bit further back down the field, so we are going to see another safety car lap. I think the one thing we're going to be expecting is see how long Newt is going to be keeping that position, currently in 3rd. Very impressive considering where they were previously in the sprint race. And Mad Dog was very much further down in the sprint race, now in 4th position, Alfa Romeo. I guess the main thing to go is whether or not anyone's going to get on Wooly in terms of when we're going to have the restart. And secondly, how long are some of these people like Mad Dog, like Newt, who were, how can I say, further down in the sprint race, how long they're going to keep those positions and who is going to be fighting for those podium positions, as they are definitely valued at some points.
Thing with Newt and Mad Dog is both of these are, I think, previously podium holders from the spring championship or the winter championship last time round. So they've more or less been in a familiar position where they've been, more so underdogs towards Wooly and such. But they're in a pretty good position right now. Ender Epic and Quixotical, there could be in a potential chance to get their first podiums in their BSUR F1 careers. And Alpha as well, being in second compared to Wooly is honestly pretty remarkable. But there's like a lot of people on the grid that can really be able to benefit like any attrition that may come its way. And, it's discussed before, it's just dependent on the safety cars, it's dependent on the scene around the track and just how much calamity is involved here in Baku, because all the safety car part has only happened on just lap 1.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be seeing this. If this is going to be a restart, you're going to be seeing the safety car going away, and yeah, it looks like we're going to be going back to racing. So yeah, so if you see on the side, you'll see a green SC on the side, so that means we're going to be having a race restart. So well, we're going to be backing everyone up again, as Wooly did this in the previous sprint round. So let's have a go, and we're going to have a first restart of this race, probably one of many.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see all these cars once again bundle up again. We're going to count how many times they'll bundle up again. It's they're a lot more relaxed now this time compared to the sprint race now. A lot less of rows of cars. A lot less Valtteri Bottas Mugello 2020 vibes.
Yeah, we do love a bit of close wheel-to-wheel action. Maybe a little bit of carnage as well, as we're going to be going to restart. So we're going to be seeing cars jostling for position going into turn 1. It looks like keeps it nice and clean for now, as Alpha is trying to be getting as close as possible on the timings. You're going to be seeing positions going up and down. It looks like we've had a contact in the back of the field. Looks like a Haas has had a bit of a moment. That's going to be Ed having a bit of a time. Looks like we hadn't had any severe contact penalties yet. So might have been a self-made error. But we are going to be seeing cars nice and tucked up, as Mad Dog is going to be a little bit further behind. I think Newt is wanting to try and see and take on Alpha, as only it's down to 2/10 of a second. So we're going to be going further down the field. Chaotic further down the field, wanting to try and get some positions, as we're going to go side by side with the Ferrari of Dasher, who's further down the field, be wanting to get a couple of positions considering what happened last race. We're going to have a lock-up there with Ender, and Mad Dog is going to be making the positions into 4th, and Geek is going to be going up the field, as Arias had a bit of a moment going 2 places down. But gotta remember, Geek is carrying that 5-second penalty, so we're going to see how effective that's going to be later in the race. But for now, couple of jostling positions, as we are going to be going down the long straight of our safety car restart.
That was a great overtake, actually, by Chaotic on that Ferrari as well. And as well, on Mad Dog, on Ender Epic as well, to maintain that 4th position now. He needs to hold that in for as much as he possibly can if he wants to have any chance of that podium position now. As Last Gen Newt and Alpha are going to go a bit wheel-to-wheel now for jostling for that 2nd podium position. And in the back, as you can see, Mad Dog and Ender Epic are going to have a midst of fight of their own as well, as they head down for the main straight to complete 1 green lap of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here. Last Gen down the inside of Ender Epic. It's got a bit of a wobble, and he's going to concede just now for the time being and just hope to the back of it.
Yeah, and we're going to see a couple of cars further down the field wanting to try and get some places, as we're going to be seeing the cars going side by side. Oh, you can see a little bit of hitting the contact in the wall. It looks like Newt has tried to make the overtake here, and it looks like does so, as they're going to be going side by side, and that is going to be Newt going into 2nd position. But Alpha's going to be one it coming back with a couple cars following very close by behind.
Done a great overtake on Alpha, especially without any DRS now. Is going to get himself up into 2nd. He's probably going to try and use as much time as he possibly can to catch up to Willy Blobs. And as soon as he manages to use up that tyre, he just needs to use the DRS now in that 3rd sector, and he's pretty much set for that lead position now. Another couple of lockups as well. Thomas is all in the back of BB Yagi. I think this is about the longest he's ever gone in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix now, so it's all new territory for him as he tries to jostle up for positions.
Yeah, you can see the car. As soon as he's getting close to the back of that car, you can see the rear getting a little bit difficult. Again, because these cars are generating so much downforce, the air behind it is going to be very much turbulent, and that's going to be affecting the downforce they're going to be feeling. Yes, it's going to give you a bit of help on that straight, but it's not going to be helping in those short, tight areas where you need as much downforce as you can, as we're going to be seeing cars going side by side. Ender is down to fourth. Be wanted to get that podium position again, as DRS has been enabled, as it is going to be enabled, so we are going to be seeing some of these cars getting DRS going in and out, of turn 2. So keep an eye on these two as they are very close, and we might see some more action coming into this, tucking it nice and close. Looks like both cars be wanting to go side by side, and again, we're going to be going up and down the field. Ender is going to be looking to take the position with that DRS open, and that is going to be a podium position acquired. But let's see how long, because Alpha's going to be wanting to take that back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a McLaren 2-3. It's really impressive, actually. Zach Brown would be absolutely ecstatic with that, and good overtake there from Ender Epic. We've got a bit of a calamity in the back. I think that was Thomas and Bibiagi has dropped a couple of places. They were down in, they were at 12th and 13th, and now they've dropped to 14th and 15th now. Yeah, they've lost a couple of positions there. I wonder what happened. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate for them. But I tell you what, Joe has actually done really impressive for where he started. You know, he used to have a lot of issues with the previous sprint race whenever he had some bad luck with the safety car and then having to speed and then come into the pits. But he's gained 8 positions, having started in 16th. It's done really amazing.
Yeah, we can actually see already. I think this is something to look at already. Look at the intervals. Again, if a car's going to be in within a second, they are going to be getting that DRS. So we're going to be going back down the straights again, as, again, it would be nice. I think Zach Brown would be happy, but wouldn't also be happy that an AlphaTauri would now be a V-Carb, would be leading the race, which would be very interesting. You'd be thinking, Max, why are you in the other car?
Cameron Sturl won the championship in an AlphaTauri.
Oh, dear. Well, I think Horner's bought the wrong team. I think that's probably what's happened. He's like, I'm running the wrong team here. Where's Adrian?
Oh. Ooh! He hit the wall. Chaotic has just hit the wall. I think that's going to cause damage to his front plate. But you could just see there how he's wobbled and hit the barriers. Yeah, you see, he locked up. Yeah, so that's a lot of downforce being affected there from Chaotic. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, there is something wrong with that car. It is not handling in the way that Chaos is going. Is that crabbing a little bit?
What?
It's not quite. Crabbing is a sort of technical term where you try and go straight. The car wants to veer off in a certain direction, which is usually what happens when the rear tyres are bent somewhat from whether or not you've had contact with someone. You can see the car just having a very much difficult time trying to get in the correct way. I think we have a look further up the field. I think Geek's only about 4 tenths behind. What's it called? As he is carrying that 5-second penalty and is having a very much difficult issues there. As
I swear you described drifting, not crabbing.
Drifting's more of more purposeful. Crabbing's a bit more, oh no, my car's broken. It's going in a certain direction I don't want it to. And it looks like we're going to be tucking nice and easy for Geek here. He's going to be wanting to make the overtake with Quinticle. And remember, Geek has got that 5-second penalty, so he's going to be wanting as much places as possible because, again, he's going to be carrying that throughout the race, whether or not that's going to be going for a pit stop. And we're going to be going back down the straight, looking at Alpha because... Sorry,
yeah, he dropped down to 5th. It's alright. He's dropped down to 5th from Maddox, so he's already dropped, what, 3 positions already in a span of 3 laps by now. And our attention now draws back down to Geek. Sorry for interrupting you. Oh.
Yeah, it looks like we've had a crash down in turn 19. I think someone's had a bit of a moment as a car is stopped on the track.
That's rage. Don't think he's shown as DNF though, so it might be a... No, he is DNF'd, but... You're right, he did have a collision turn 19. That is such a weird collision to have though, because it was just coming out the exit, so either he spun it or Must have been a tank slapper then with that setup that he had. That's unfortunate. Second retirement though, in the 26 lap race, and it's going to be the second time we have a virtual safety car.
Yeah, it looks like Ed's had. I think Ed was the one actually had that contact. Problem about turn 18, 19 is it has a very nasty curb on turn 18. And if you take a little bit too much, it's going to unsettle the car and fly you into a barrier at what is probably 160 miles an hour. And unfortunately, I think Ed's seen what happens when you go into a barrier that speed. And we're going to be having our second retirement in the race, but only a virtual safety car. So people are going to be retaining those gaps for now.
The interesting thing about Alpha is, we were talking about how Alpha has dropped so many positions having started in P3. Well, he's behind two of the most fought or climbed up position drivers of Yeezy and Joe. They both gained 7 and 8 respectively, and Alpha is pretty much going to be looking on his mirrors and seeing what he can do. Joe immediately takes action and starts overtaking his teammate. Now he wants that podium position, and he wants that now, and he's going to try and make a big fight back up to it. Alpha's just overtaken Mad Dog now to reclaim 4th position. The Aston Martins are really close to each other, but they're not quite fighting off. I think Dasher was trying to... I think Dasher was hoping for the safety car to go a bit longer. Or that was a scheduled pit stop. It's going to be the first one. But I think that means the pit window is officially open in this case.
Yeah, it looks like we've probably one of the worst places to have a safety car restart, because all the cars are going to be getting the advantage of that slipstream behind, and that is going to make it very difficult. It looks like Alpha is going to be wanting to try and get that second place back, and as I say that, actually, Mad Dog is actually having an overtake right now with Alpha. That's not going to be helpful. We're going to be going side by side, going into this tighter section of corners. Turn 7 coming up. You can see a couple of lock-up from Geek from behind, but we're going to be looking in front. Lock-up from Alpha in front. Again, this is one of the worst places to try and make an overtake because it's so damn tight. And the worst thing you want is these cars are very aerodynamically reliable. And yes, it's going to be all about keeping it nice and tight. And you can see a couple of wheel spins there. Let's see how we're going to go, because the DRS detection zone is going to be about... I have to have a look at it. It's going to be around here somewhere. I think it is around about here, actually. So we're going to see how well Mad Dog is going to be defending. Dog Alpha is going to be defending from Ender.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if Joe is close enough to Ender as well to hold that DRS in. Area Geezy and will probably want to try and coattail with Joe as much as they can. If Joe will be able to claw that up to Ender, then that's a big battle for 5th there. Ariel makes the action as soon as he can, though. Ender Epic makes the move on Alpha, claws his way back up to 4th now, and Ender and Mad Dog will continue their jostle right there and then. We'll say though, Wooly is 3 seconds ahead, and Last Gender is 4 seconds ahead. So I think that's pretty much the battle set up. Again, we got another virtual safety car.
Yeah, it looks like we probably had some contact coming out of turn 2, and we'll have to find out what's been happening there. As again, more accumulation. There is no front ring on the on that Alpha Dari. It looks like Ari's had a bit of a moment, and it looks like the stewards are wanting to call out a virtual safety car, because you're not careful, you're going to run over some of that material, which carbon fiber is a bit sharp. As a person who's had a bit of experience with carbon fiber, it is very sharp. It is very easy to cut yourself, and very easy to cut tires as well, especially at the speed that these cars are going at. So virtual safety car keeps the relative gaps between cars. And the thing that I always fear with these VSC periods is that it always puts you in the most dangerous places, and I'm expecting we might see another one on the straight again. Oh, as I say that, someone's already sped under VSC already.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate there for Chaotic. It's going to be a drive-through penalty, which is not ideal in what is effectively one of the longest pit straights in the grid. Don't quote me on that, please. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. Oh, Jackins is retired. Has he made contact with it? He's made contact with the castle section.
Yeah, that's going to be another retirement. It looks like actually at the section where Charles Leclerc had a bit of an incident as well. So,
oh, he's got.
Oh no. Oh wait, actually no.
Okay. I think it makes sense. What was it? Jackins crashed into the castle section, and Chaotic has got a 5-second penalty for crashing into Chaotic because Chaotic was on the track racing surface.
Oh dear, and looks like you're actually going to have an M plate flying around there
I
on
think
tops.
because he's got no front wing. I would reckon that the stewards will probably remove it, remove the what do you call it? Remove the contact penalty because he's already got a driver penalty anyways. He's got no front wing, so there's not really much of a point to let that hold in my opinion.
Well, safety car well, the VSC has now been elevated to a safety car itself, so all the gaps are going to be converging together as we're going to be seeing all the cars coming back together, which is here we go again. That's what it feels like as we're getting. Was it the second or the third one? I can't quite remember now.
The first one, obviously.
The first one.
No.
No. I was thinking. I was like, you got me there. What?
It's our third. I think it's our. I can't remember honestly. I think it's our third safety car period. Third or
Don't
second.
worry, guys. We are kind of awake, like just about. It's just been utter carnage because we've had VSCs into safety cars, and we're seeing loads of bodywork fly all over the place with some of our more interesting people. Ed and Jackins having their problems. Cameron Shell, who's probably the biggest surprise, being our first retirement at the race. Definitely not what they're wanting in what is going to be quite a lengthy championship.
He's not really disproving the Regan Nathan nicknames that we gave him earlier, didn't we? It was over as soon as he went off the runoff. It was over. I will say though, Thomas has done like really superb in that Mercedes. I mean, he started in P16, and the fact he's overtaken so many places to P1 is, honestly remarkable. And this is a star glazing drive from him.
Gonna be interesting. We have the tyre graphic up. I think let's have a look how many laps we have at the moment. So Wooly is going to be on new hard tyres. So it's actually looking to go to the end of the race. Same with Newt and everyone below. So actually, Thomas is one of the only few that didn't pit. So while Thomas has got the position, does have 10 lap old tyres. Will be 11 laps when we're going to have that safety car restart. So I don't expect Thomas to stay there for long because of everyone else below, all pitting from 2nd to 12th. But it'll be interesting to see how long it's going to last and how Thomas is going to fare with some very tough competition behind.
Thomas is a rookie, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Should be.
Yeah, he's ironically the fastest rookie in BSUR history to lead a race.
That'd be lovely. I mean, there actually has been, coming from our ACC land, we did actually have a rookie in the first race win their very first race. We have had that before, but it is very rare. It would be cool if Thomas does that. Again, this race is very much chaotic. So again, it could be anyone's to win right now. We are only, we're going to be halfway through the race when this race restarts. It's all to play for, and we'll see how it goes. Especially, I'm more interested to see whether or not those medium tyres are going to be falling off later in the race, and whether or not people like Ender, ZZ, and Aria, and even Geek, see whether or not they can get anything further in this race. Let's see how the strategies are going to go, as we're going to be going to restart in this race very soon.
It's honestly amazing looking back in how Geek was at one point a title contender on a year ago for the Spring Championship against him and Matty, which he conceded to Matty in the end, but he still got second place, and even so beating Cameron Silford. It's weird looking like a year later and how he's relatively stuck in midfield. It just shows you just how wayward this championship entirely is. Like, being in championship contenders does not keep you safe of, mid-table results in this case.
Yeah, and I think, again, consistency is going to be important with an 8-round season, as Thomas is going to be leading the pack for the safety car restart. So Watch for them to be backing everyone up in this section because we really don't want to be giving them that slipstream going into turn run. And I think Wooly's going to be wanting to jostle. So, we got 13 laps to go in this race. Let's see how this goes. So, we're going to be seeing a couple of cars as third position is going to be under attack by Mad Dog and Alpha behind. And it looks like we're going to be seeing that Williams trying to make a little bit of a dive into the first corner. And looks like going to be protecting for now. Is going to be seeing a jostling for positions. Baba Yaga further back is going to be wanting a little bit of action for themselves. As it looks like everyone's got relatively cleanly. It looks like they're starting to learn from the last few safety car restarts. As it looks like Wooly's going to be taking the lunge, going into turn 3, and will be taking the lead for this race again. Let's see how well Thomas can go with those used medium tyres.
I think he's a moving chicane at this point. He's already dropped something. He spun off. He has spun off and he's hit the wall and the front wing is gone. And I think that might be another safety car.
That is absolute, in your words, I would say calamity, as a car that led this race is now fell all the way down to 15 with damage, and it looks like we're going to be
another collision in the back as well. That was another collision in the back between Quixoco and, or is it? It's James at BB Yagi, my bad. Another further statistic for you, Michael. Thomas has become the fastest rookie to lead a race to be last in a race.
Well, just as they rise, I guess they fall at the same time. We are unfortunately in another safety car period. I think we're going into our fourth one now, as we're constantly talking about safety cars, which is going to be the nature of Baku. I only think of the stewards who thought, let's pick Baku for our first race. Let's see how this one's going to go.
Yeah, at this point we need commercial breaks in this case.
Do you know what would be really good? We could become a NASCAR stream. We could have, we have a safety, we have a caution come out, sponsored by whatever bank or whatever damn thing we're selling, right to you on the BUSR official channel. I hope you all guys are having a fun time at home, by the way. It has been a bit of a mess, but it's student championship. We always like a little bit of chaos on the side. So we'll see how this one goes as leading at lap 14. Wooly is going to be keeping the lead of the race. And probably wanting a win at this point.
This safety car period has been brought to you by Special Effect.
Yes, and NSC, everybody. Go play your tournaments now. If you're a student especially, go sign up some tournaments. We also have Pringles. I don't know. Remember that we have our Instagram as well. I don't know how much we use it, but we definitely use our Twitter. Or now X. Because Elon said it's X now.
Who?
Oh dear. This is what happens, by the way, if you are watching at home. We do descend in a mild degree of chaos as we're going to see a little bit of lockup. You're not even racing, man. Come on. Come on, Mad Dog. You got to get through this race. And the worst thing you want to do is turn your tyre into a 50p coin. Don't want to be doing that. It doesn't help.
God, the imagery, the commentary lines for you is incredible.
I've had, unfortunately, a lot of practice from having what is essentially endurance races, where we have to talk for 75 minutes, watching cars go around the track, going left and potentially right. We do a little bit of both. If we're watching ovals, you're never going left. If we're going right, we've got a problem, whether or not it's intentional or not. But get used to it after a while. And yes, all topics are open, definitely. And I hope everyone at home is having a good time. If you're actually watching, do say hello in the chat. It does really help. So, 14 laps down. The medium tyres are being extended and not being ran down too much. So that's a really good thing for them. So for Alpha and Mad Dog, they can pray that they have their tyres for a couple more laps. But the hard tyre users, again, they're going to be wanting more racing laps if they can. Especially Newt, who's currently 5th. We have both the McLaren people in 2nd and 3rd, now 5th and 6th. They're going to be wanting a couple more racing laps and trying to get the advantage from those hard tyres so that they can get into those podium positions. Because right now, 2nd down to 6th, it's all to play for.
If Joe manages to win this race, I'll be amazed.
Well, the only way's up, hopefully, for them. You got to remember, Joe has gone all the way to the bottom and all the way to the top. So he could either go all the way up to the top or all the way to the bottom. He also do nothing, but it is a race in the end.
I know, but I'm thinking about like where he started and just seeing him like climb up so many positions. Like it wasn't too long ago that we just saw him overtake Chaotic in lap 1, and you know he climbed all the way up into 4th now. It's just really impressive, and if he manages to win this race, I'll happily like award him driver of the day in that case. But
yeah, I think Joe has really done well coming from a lower position. I think a lower position was that from qualifying or was that from damage? I'm trying to remember now.
that was from damage in the race. In qualifying, he started in P2, but he had a driver penalty, and then he retired later on in the sprint race. So he started all the way down in, I believe it was P16, I think, or P18, and then he just kept climbing and climbing from there, and now it's up to 4th in that case. So he's already gained more than 10 positions to get where he is.
Yeah, it's showing that ultimate pace really is the carrier of races, and I think Joe has had the advantage of having those medium tires. I think everyone kind of pitted at the same time, so those medium tires, we're going to see how long they are going to last as the safety car is coming in this lap. So medium tires might have a little bit advantage for now, but do watch out later in this race. I think people like Newt is going to be wanting to try and get up positions and have that advantage. We're going to be seeing all the cars backed up again. That we have to explain to you at home how much we see this often at Baku. But right now, they're all going to be stacking up, and Wooly is going to be wanting to restart this race in a relatively good position.
Yeah, Wooly has done really good with these safety car restarts. Like, he's done it very late, but he's always managed to maintain his lead. His lead was never actually been in risk ever since these safety car restarts, and he's going to be hoping for the same one more or less again. And yeah, it's another good one. Alpha's still trying to claw to the back as much as he can, but there is only so much that he can do now. So we head down through turn 1 once again.
Yeah, it looks like cars are going to be jostling for position. Joe has been taking a lunge, going into 3rd place and making the move stick. And it looks like going into turn 2 now. I'm going to be.
I thought someone spun. My bad.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of cars jostling around the cars on the backside. I'm very sorry to say that, but looking at it, we're going to be seeing a couple of cars be wanting to jostling for position. And it looks like we're going to be seeing a couple. This battle at the back here between Babiago from 14th to 12th, they'll be wanting to get some position gains as points are on the line. They want to be getting it. Looks like contact coming in. Oh my goodness, we've had multiple collisions further back in the field. It looks like Geek has been crashed out of this race.
You were saying they were fighting for positions?
I think they're fighting for their lives at this point. It looks like Geek has unfortunately had a DNF, Babi Yaga as well. And I don't know, are we going to be seeing another safety car again?
If I will be surprised. I don't think the stewards would take too kindly to it, but that's really unfortunate for Geek and Bibiagi. Thomas and it's James has collected damage as well, so I reckon they'll probably need to go into the pits as well. As there's a move now by Last Gen Newt and Mad Dog. Newt is just trying to hold to 4th because he's trying to get back to that podium position that he lost from Joe. As Joe is now making the charge to Alpha. It's going to be amazing now from P16 now to P2. He's going to make the move, and I believe it has worked before the turn has even happened.
Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like we've seen a couple of overtakes. Look at Endo has finally got up into that 4th position. Mad Dog falling down a little bit, but wanted to fight as much as possible, as it looks like the McLarens are going to be pushing that Alfa Romeo to the wall, but it looks like we'll get away with it for now. Mad Dog's one of those medium runners right now, so we'll be wanting to keep one of those positions for now. And it looks like driven all the way to the wall. These drivers are not giving an inch. It looks like Ender will be keeping the position as the Newt has actually gone down to 6th. I haven't actually thought about this right now, but having a bit of issues with traction coming out of what was turn 5?
Joe's actually within a second now, so if the DRS is enabled, I think that's him all the more left safe. Give it a bit of smoke over once again and through the castle section. Yeezy, who's used to be as high as 6th, is now trying to fend off from Dasher as they exit out for the castle section now and onto a relatively long left-hand straight. But you can see here from Joe, Alpha was about a second away from Wooly come through the first sector, and Joe's now managed to claw that now back down to just half a second now. And if the DRS is going to be enabled in the next lap and he can still be able to hold that from within, I think he's got a very good chance. Wooly's on the hards, Joe's on the softs, on the mediums, so there'll be a bit of a depressioncy here. But we'll see how that fares for him. He might be able to do it without the DRS even.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be going side by side. I think Joe's been wanting to dump that battery, trying to get side by side with Wooly, but Wooly's got the inside of that corner, so it's not going to be much of an overtake moment here, but there is another DRS. Let's see how well they're going to be flicking. Further down the field, we're going to be seeing Newt get nice and close to Mad Dog. Again, Mad Dog's going to be one of those medium runners, so we'll be losing that sort of pace over time. We're going to be going back here with Joe. Only 2 attempts. It's going to be all about how well they're going to be kept up with each other, and cars are basically locking up left, right, and center. Mad Dog is going to be fighting for their life as they're currently in 5th, but looks like Newt's going to be right on the back, wanting to try and get a nip at getting that position upwards. Mad Dog, again, has that medium tire compared to hard. I think we've said this a couple of times, but this, as that tire is going to be coming off and that hard tire is going to be lasting longer, it's going to be even harder, especially in the castle section. That traction's only going to be point as Joe has taken an overtake for the lead for the start of the race. What's that?
Oh my god, it actually worked. I think it is. When did he do it? He did it after the castle section, I believe. So that's massive. And he's already gained half a second faster. So he's really trying to push as hard as he can to try and get away from that DRS zone from Wooly as much as he can now, as our attention now draws towards the back between Newt and Mad Dog now. Ooh, Mad Dog gets a little bit too close for comfort there coming out of that turn, as we now downhead out of turn 16 now. Last Gen Newt is still all over the back of him. He's got Arya and Dasher to keep him company as well, as he's been he hasn't really taken a lot of risks. He's always been trying to push the back of Mad Dog, hopefully to use the DRS though to
we've got damage coming on the track.
We've got damage coming in the back. Yeah, that was Arya. Arya's front wing's gone.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Wooly has made an overtake for the lead as Joe has dropped back down to 2nd place, but is going to be within a couple hundredths of a second. Be dropping back a little bit as they've gone past that corner going into turn 2. But there is a DRS on the back end. Looks like Joe has got the DRS going back into the lead. These two are jostling back and forth between the DRS as they're going to be burning their batteries so much to do so, as Dasher is going to be making the overtake onto Newt, which Newt has not been having the best of time. I wonder if they have a little bit of damage that happened for, earlier in this section of the race. And in the meantime, let's keep an eye on this close battle, as it looks like Dasher is going to make another position on Arya, which, as you said, has a bit of wing damage.
I think it was a collision with I think it was a collision with Last Gen Newt that caused Arya to lose that front wing. I think he'll probably have to go to the pits very soon. Actually, didn't even go to the pits after that damage. It probably had enough time to do so, but in this case it's just more or less a mobile chicane. 7 laps left to go, and there isn't really much Arya can do in terms of fighting off, especially in the 2nd sector as well. It's just a matter of how much these time between Yeezy and Mad Dog will lose to Newt and Dasher, the more so he comes out. You're saying? Yeah,
and Wooly's actually going to be within DRS range again. We'll be in striking distance to try and get that position for the lead, as again, Slipstream's coming up, and Wooly has got the DRS for now. So will be getting nice and close, but do they have enough battery? We'll be going on the inside to try and make the overtake, side by side, pushing each other to the end. Well, but Wooly drops out of it. It doesn't quite have the position on track to do so, and Joe will be keeping the lead for now. Let's have a look at Dasher wanting to take some time, as Arya is actually going to be keeping out with that front wing damage. And right now, we're going to be seeing cars still late into the race, still fighting for every position possible. And right now, Arya is wanting to stay out thinking better, thinking I can get through this race without my front wing, while everyone around is going to be doing, it looks like going to be a little bit of contact with the Alfa Romeo there, as Aria is doing everything can to turn that car, because I'll tell you, you're going to try and turn that thing, and not going to be turning, and you're seeing lockups already on those front tyres.
He's hoping his chips that there's going to be a safety car coming in with the remaining 6 laps. That's why he's staying out. He doesn't think he'll be able to finish at this race, but he thinks there's a better opportunity for him to fix his car. But as the time goes on, I think it's just becoming more and more appealing to just pit now in this case. You said close, like Mad Dog and Aria. I think that was actually a bit of contact there, but you know, it's really surprising there wasn't any more damage being affected there. Near it, Dasher and Mad Dog are now in a triple bulldog fight now for P5. Ender Epic is relatively safe now. Alpha's now outside of the DRS zone, so I think that's his chances for fighting for the lead pretty much gone. And honestly, Aria without the front wing has done really well to, you know, keep into the back of Mad Dog, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think Mad Dog for now is still carrying those medium tyres compared to the hard tyre runners further down the field. Again, it's going to be that cork in the bottle as we're seeing
Aria's crashed.
coming out. Yep. And it looks like that front wing may have been a bit helpful when it came to traction. And unfortunately, Aria is going to be crashing into a wall at very high speed and will be our next DNF. You were joking that we're going to have 12 DNFs. Well, we're already at 9, so we're not too far away from that. So,
don't remind me.
I think the game might be trying to remind you slowly. Anyhow, we've got 5 laps remaining in this race, no safety car coming out, so it means that we are going to continue seeing some racing as Wooly has actually gone down to 7/10 of a second. We've seen cars starting to create a gap from each other as Dasher's going to be keeping nice and close with Newt. I think Dasher's been wanting a little bit of action considering how bad it's gone, having damage in the sprint race, going further down the field, now currently in 6th in the feature race, wanting to get a little bit more, but he has to keep it nice and neat going into this castle section. Turn 8, turn 7 not being lovely, turn 8 being Charles Leclerc's places. He doesn't want to recreate what that car has recreated in the past with its previous go, and actually, looks like we're going to be seeing a little bit of swerviness coming out from ZZ. Not the best thing you want to be doing in that castle section, but those tyres are used. They are not going to give you as much traction in those low speed areas, and Dayaga has actually left the session for some unknown reason. 5/10 of a second.
Already.
Oh dear. 5/10 of a second. We'll be keeping the draft on. Wooly's going to be wanting that pole position. We'll be having DRS coming open. Actually, DRS is not open at the moment. I wonder whether or not we can see it or not. No, unfortunately not. Thinks better of it. 3/10 of a second. We got 4 laps to go.
It's Joe and Wooly. They're both each other's lead under pressure now. Tension now draws the back between Yeezy and Mad Dog now. Yeezy has lost a lot of time to Mad Dog from having that overtake with Aria. In fact, that position with Aria has really drastically affected them. You can see that on the timing board. Nearly 7.5 seconds separates between Yeezy and Dasher. They used to be back close to close, wheel to wheel, and now it's pretty much no man's land between Yeezy and Dasher now in this case, and it's just a fight now for 8th between those two. It's really impressive because Mad Dog was all over at 4th now, and now he's still challenging like for points still, but he's still giving it his all even though it's for a lesser position of 7th.
Yeah, I think those used mediums are starting to give a bit of issues for Mad Dog, dropping down from what was about 4th all the way down to 8th position. Not the best time, as Yeezy actually made a very lovely overtake earlier. Very clean and easy, keeping probably a little bit of battery as well as battery power. The ERS system, which gives them a little bit of power additional to the internal combustion engine that they all carry. But you can deploy it in a very push-to-pass manner. And so ZZ's going to be keeping nice in 7th position, getting away from Mad Dog, keeping him out the DRS, and trying to keep as much as he can in 7th position. We have 4 laps remaining, and it's 5/10 between the lead and 2nd position. I think Wooly's going to be wanting to take some action at some point. Looks like a little bit of swerviness coming out there from Mad Dog. Not going to be wanting much, as looks like, again, tucking nice and close. I wonder if Wooly's keeping some battery so he can go for one of those final overtakes us. Yes, 50%. That's a lot of battery left for what has been a 50% race. So expect some fireworks in these last the last two laps of the race, as both of them are going to be using their ERS to try and get as much as possible to keep that lead. I think Joe's going to be wanting it. Considering how far he's gone up, it will be impressive, to say the least, as a feat. Going from damage to first place.
The thing as well is Joe is on mediums and Wooly is on hards. We were talking about before about how the mediums are starting to wear off now as the races gets longer. So Wooly's tire is not even at its most optimal yet, whereas Joe's is, it's starting to wear from its peak now. So not only is he saving up the ERS, but it's also the tire wear that Wooly would have the advantage now. And he's going to put all of that now into the final 3 laps now, and he's just waiting for his time now to strike.
Yeah, he's going to have to keep it nice and neat coming through the section. Always very difficult, especially as the tires are going off. And as you said, mediums versus hards. Those medium tires will wear faster than Wooly's tires. So it's all going to be down to how well Joe can keep Wooly behind. I think it's all going to be down to the last lap, really. I think if it's battery time, knowing-wise, not going to be much of a lunge right now. We'll be using DRS, of course, to keep it nice and close. We'll be taking a little lunge on the inside, but thinks better of it. We'll be needing to get a little bit closer if we want to be taking a lunge at the end of the race. In the meantime, we've actually some gaps currently widen up now. So really, this fight at the end, as it looks like Wooly having a bit of trouble getting some traction out of turn 2. We'll be needing every bit of traction that you've got, Wooly, if you want to be winning this race. And keeping it nice and tucked up, 3/10 of a second, as we're going to be going into the closing stages of this race.
Mediums versus hards, DRS versus ERS, Aston versus Alpha, first place on the grid versus 16th place on the grid. I must say this is going to be a very exciting closing stages of the battle between Joe and Wooly. Wooly has not had his lead challenged at all until Joe came along onto the scene, and as such he's been giving him a run for his money, and Wooly has been looking for everything to try and claw it back to make it a triple crown for the Azerbaijan, and he's hoping to try and cap it off here. Still 11 cars on the grid from the 18 that we've started here for the feature race. No signs of retirements yet. Everything is sort of calmed down though, but people are now sorted into their own grips now, fighting for the last remaining positions now. It's just a matter of who can ever capitalize back here. The fight for the last podium spot is now developing between Ender and Alpha. Alpha has been relatively in the middle of nowhere, is now under the challenge of the McLaren. I think Ender is looking to try and get his first podium in BSUR.
Yeah, Ender, if you want to know, Alpha's actually lost about second this lap already. Going to be within Ender's going to be in DRS range of Alpha now because of the mistakes that Alpha has made. Going 4/10 of a second, we'll be having DRS compared to the Alpha in front. We'll be looking for something indeed, but it's not quite there for now, as we're in our penultimate lap of the race. So I think it's going to be interesting. See who's going to get the last position, and of course the first position of the podium.
I think Alpha's on medium, if I'm not mistaken. So this could be a foreshadowing for what will happen between Joe and Wooly, because Ender is on much, much more optimal tires in these closing stages of the race than Wooly is. Yeah, Alpha's on the mediums. So you could just see how much he's already suffering trying to keep that track in there. As he said, lost a second in the previous lap, and I think that might be a bit worrying for Joe if he wants to hold into his lead. I think the only thing that's holding that lead for him is goodwill, and I think the same situation might be the same case for Alpha as he tries to fend off his last remaining podium position. He has never been outside the podium position throughout this entire race, which is very remarkable, but it could be snatched from him in an instant in the closing stages.
Yeah, keep an eye on those deltas, keep an eye on those intervals, as we are going to be getting into these last two sections. Again, this is going to be last couple of chances to overtake in this race. Ender is keeping it within third sector, as we have a yellow coming out in sector 2. It looks like we've had a collision between Mad Dog and ZZ, and that is going to be a 5-second penalty on on ZZ, not what going to be wanting. I think we should have a look further up the field. It looks like Ender is going to be wanting to get nice and close within 3/10 of a second. DRS will be open, giving them
This is for the lead.
extra time. Then we're going to go back to the lead here as Wooly's going to be diving on the in time. Last lap of the race, they're going to be going side by side. We're going to see how well they're going to do. They got one more DRS zone and of course the straight at the very end. It looks like Wooly has taken the position at the very last moment, but keep an eye on these two. It is going to be very difficult. It looks like Joe is going to be burning whatever ERS has got back into the lead for now. Joe is back in the lead. Let's see how well it goes. Wooly is going to have to do everything he can. He's got one last straight. He must be thinking, I want that DRS. I want to get as close as possible. And in the meantime, Ender is got over Alpha at the very last moment, taking the last podium positions. There's additional points for podium position points. And we are going into what is going to be one entire tense race. I love this sort of racing.
Hards versus mediums. Joe's trying to pull away as much as he can now. It's down to 6/10 now. 2/10 for 2/10 is actually gained for that second sector as well. He's still pulling away. He knows the DRS straight is going to be all that Wooly will need to capitalize. He's trying to do all that he can. A critical is overtaking Yeezy for 7th. That might be the last overtake that we'll see, unless Wooly can pull out all the cars that he can here. Heading out through the third sector now. He's actually closed up now. Back to that 2/10 now. 4/10 now. Down to turn 16 now. And I think he's going to be close enough now to be able to unleash that DRS and the battery and the tire now. It's going to be a drag line to the finish now, Michael. Who do you think is going to win?
Oh, you've got to remember, Wooly had a little bit of traction issues coming out that final corner, keeping it nice and close. Both are going to be tucking in. That DRS is going to be coming into play. Wooly has run out of battery. That flag, that light is coming on, but it's just enough to take it. And that's a win for Wooly at the very last moment. 1/10 of a second. Well done, Wooly, coming back from the very end of it. Ender pulling off 1/10 of a second. Very at the end, no Alpha's taken it.
He clawed it back. The DRS managed to make him claw it back, and that will be Alpha sealing the podium. Ender would be a bit disappointed, but he'll be very happy with 4th. And last year it will complete with the McLaren 4-5. It's the best performance from the team so far. Dasher finishes off in 6th and Critical in 7th with It's James. A bit chaotic for him. He finishes over in 8th, followed by Mad Dog, who will be happy to claw it up in 9th, with Yeezy rounding off the points finishers. Thomas with a very distant 11th after a lot of damages I've suffered there. My word, what an incredible race.
And that is Baku in a nutshell. You're going to be having draft races from the very beginning to the end. And honestly, I think we had a Lance Stroll moment, but a different one this time. As looks like Endo will be getting that final podium position, and most importantly, Wooly defending that triple win, that full house of wins both in qualifying, sprint, and race.
Absolutely incredible, and it was no easy feat for him to be able to achieve that whatsoever. That was honestly regarding one of the best BSUR openings I have ever witnessed in my 2 years of commentary here in this series.
Fantastic. Reminds me of one of the previous seasons where we had a very close, within a 10th of a second for a win of a championship. This championship always brings up close ends to a race, and thank goodness we're having another set of those here. So well done, Wooly, for what is a very epic climax to this race. And of course, Joe, incredible to come from such far back of the race to get second place.
Absolutely. And congratulations to Alpha as well for running off the podium and fending off what was effectively a 5-car battle for all the way throughout for the podium. And he manages to come out on top. Really remarkable from him. Honestly, this was such an incredible race. And honestly, even though I told you before at the start of the race that you couldn't really predict these races to see who would ever come out on top, if there was one man that was going to do it and be able to hold that pole position and win the race, it definitely was going to be Wooly, and he has shown the case here with his talents. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I think this is just round 1. We got 7 more rounds to go, so it's going to be. I think this is going to be an exciting season, and hopefully you guys can come with us as well. As hopefully we'll be getting some interviews. I don't know what we are, but in the meantime, yeah, we're going to get some interviews coming up. I think one of the things that was interesting in this race was, even though there was, I'll be honest, the strategy in this race was very chaotic, just from the amount of safety cars, virtual safety cars, etc. But at the very end, that strategy call, that hard tire, really did make a difference at the very end, as those medium tires just dropped off at the very last moment, and you saw not just Joe, but also Mad Dog as well, paying the price for that strategy call.
Yeah, as we've said before, the strategy call was honestly just a flip of the coin. It was determined on what the safety car situation was going to be like. And we did see a bit controversially towards a bit of the end that there was a potentially a incident that may have brought the safety car. If that was the case, that would have brought the medium tire wears to an advantage in pit. But because it didn't, it allowed the hard tire wears to really come out on top. And as such, that's how Wooly managed to reclaim first from Joe, because the hard tire wear was just so much better than a medium tire wear, because the mediums were so worn, so much out of grip in that first and second sector, that was the defining moment that allowed Wooly to really claw back and manage to seal the win. And honestly, like, that was incredible, wasn't it? Like, it's not often as well that you don't see strategies that are planned. Literally, I guarantee you, probably none of the drivers would have had any anticipation for how the race was going to pan out. So we just saw this race battle determined by a coin flip, more or less.
Yeah, Baku showing a bit of, how can I say, unpredictability, as we were saying. I would also say as well, I think we had a number of DNFs that were part of that uh, unpredictability. We had in total like 9 retirements in total. There was a lot of them.
Yeah,
Especially, again, I'm very surprised. People like Geek as well, who really, like I said, competed for a championship, was a previous student winner. Getting knocked out, DNF'd on the first round, that's going to be on his head, especially going into these next couple of rounds, as consistency is very important across an entire season. So I'm very interested to see how they're going to bounce back from this. I just need to have a look at our calendar for next week, which will be at Montreal, Canada, which is another, be honest, another tight track. It is another street track. Very different though, a bit more purpose built, I would say. But yeah, another tight track, another bit of tight racing, and drivers are going to be wanting everything they can going into round 2 of the championship.
yeah, we were talking about surprise retirements. Cameron Searle, who's, always a championship contender, always in these conversations, also retires. And, given Joe's consistency from the Winter Championship beforehand, where he always finished second compared to Searle, it's always just a retirement, as we've mentioned before. It always can be a retirement from Searle that could just dictate the course of the championship here. It was the case last time round last year with the spring championship, where Seoul didn't actually win the championship. As we've said, it was between Geek and Matty. So in this case, having something situation like that kind of sets the precedent to see if Sir will be able to even climb back after that. But to hold your breath or not, it's very interesting. As you mentioned before, next race is going to be in Montreal, which is our first. It's going to be the first time we'll ever have our regular kind of race format. So it'll be a 20-minute qualifying session, and it'll be a 50% race. So with that also being a tight track, it's also more or less more technical than here in Baku. It's less of a DRS train. So that means that there's going to be less of a top speed, more emphasis on acceleration, and more emphasis on downforce, as drivers will get to try and navigate through those multiple fearing chicanes. And even though there's no elevation change, it's got a very notorious characteristic, shall we say. Especially that last year as well, the Wolf Champions is known to cause a lot of people out, especially here in the BSUR as well. So that will be also another looking forward thing to look forward to for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, I think Montreal is one of those tracks that always seems to bring up controversy, I think, in some ways. Again, Wall of Champions, very much notable. As I think Michael said, Michael Schumacher, it's like he felt like he created it, but I think multiple champions have created notoriety in that final corner. Again, it's what is useful about Montreal is, again, walls cause instant punishment for any going wides. and also has 3 DRS zones that come very much back to back, which again, I would say Montreal will be one of those. I think it's one of the best in terms of testing a driver's ability, not just to drive a lap, a single lap, a qualifying lap, also keeping close with cars at relatively high speed. With Baku, you have these very small sections, very low speed. But with Montreal, outside of that first few corners, 1, 2, and 3, every other corner is pretty much high speed, with the exception, of course, the turn 6. But and of course the hairpin at the very near the end of the lap, and of course that very long straight. You could say there's a lot of similarities actually with Baku, just because of how much you have to compromise for that long straight at the very end. Very ironically, very similar to Baku. So at the moment, we're just waiting for our interviewees to get ready, and
They're ready.
they are ready. Fantastic. Well, let's bring one of them in there, shall we? And see how it went for them.
Let's.
Right. Hello, Alpha. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yourself?
Well, I would say well done for getting through that race, and especially trying to keep off and defend yourself that last podium position. How'd you feel at the end of that?
Yeah, it was really good actually. I surprised myself. It's the first time I've played the F1 23 game in probably since the last BUSR season. So yeah, a lot better than I thought, and very, very close at the end.
You've done really well to fend off from your podium positions, along with what was effectively one of the most chaotic battles we've seen in the Grand Prix. Do you think there was ever a chance in the mind that you would have been able to get P3 in that situation? Because watching it from the commentary box, it was a really fascinating battle to see, and we honestly thought that your driving was pretty remarkable.
Well, thank you very much. I think it was definitely on the cards. I knew that I definitely had the pace because I finished P2 in the sprints, which gave me a lot more confidence. I couldn't keep up with the top two of Wooly and Joe, but I thought, oh, if I can stick with it, I can definitely get P3. But very close to the end as my medium tyres were wearing a lot. So yeah, very happy with the results. And I think my first podium in BUSR in a main race, I believe.
Well, well done, Alpha, for getting your first podium of the season, and hopefully more to come. And hope you enjoyed that. And thank you very much for that little fight at the end. It was very fun to see.
Yeah, very good fun. Thank you very much.
Congrats.
Cheers.
That was honestly like the way that he defended from the podium positions on so many occasions is I was probably one of his best races of probably his career that I've seen so far. He should really be proud of that. And for P3, it's gonna do a long ways for the Spring Championship and hopefully claw so many points. So I believe we will be able to interview second place, which is Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hello.
P2, after DNFing from the sprint race, starting all the way down in P16 on the grid, you've done what was probably one of your greatest comeback drives in the BSUR. How did you feel going into the feature race? Did you think you'll be able to claw back that many positions?
I mean, in all honesty, it was like playing roulette or some sort of gambling. We had about 17 safety cars, and it all just kind of had to line up properly for you. That's why I started on the softs. I knew there was going to be 15 safety cars, so a bit early for some other tirey thing, and then get a safety car a bit later and go on to another one of those tirey things. And it just so happened I was P4 when we couldn't have any more safety cars. I had better tyres and was faster than 2 of the 3 drivers around me. Well, one had damage, so it doesn't really count. But yeah, and then the rest was, I don't know, fighting Wooly. I hit a little bump on the last lap at 15, and he was a bit smarter with his battery usage on that second to last lap. And then I lost, unfortunately, but at least it was, not 20 seconds by Cameron la-di-da.
I mean, how do you feel with Cameron Show going out of the race in turn 1? Actually, turn 2 in this case. How did you feel like knowing that you have one of your main contenders going out the race so early, and you still had Wooly to still fight for the rest of the race?
I mean, in the grand scheme of the championship, it didn't really matter too much because this will probably be my drop round with, I think it's like 30-something points because of how sprints work. So unless I don't turn up for a race, this is probably my drop round, which isn't great after the pretty silly mistake I made in the sprint, which resulted in 0 of the pointy things. So I wasn't too concerned with the race. I was just, there for the fun times, and laughing at people when they die, which happened frequently. So I managed to get no damage by some miracle, and just enjoyed laughing as people die. Yeah.
Okay then, Joe. Well, hopefully the rest of the season might go a little bit better, and hopefully, I don't know, get more pointy things, less round things, more pointy things, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we got more street tracks, so more walls to break your front left tire on or your wing on.
Awesome.
Which
All right,
results
Joe.
in less pointy things.
Oh, okay, Joe. Right, have fun. Have fun with your second place.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Joe. Well,
Thank you.
I don't even want to congratulate him after. Just leave. I'll be my drop round. God, second, I'll get this will be a drop round. Oh well.
one of his best drives in his career. Oh, this will be my drop round.
Right. Let's get the winner, shall we?
Hello.
Hello, Josh. Welcome for your first win of the season. Well, first sprint, first win, top of quality. How do you feel?
Yeah, very good. It's actually my first win on track. I've had one win before, but that was in the steward's room after Geek did a funny. But yeah, it was stressful. Sprint was nice and easy. Everyone kind of crashed, and so I was just chilling out front. But then that safety car halfway through the race just brought Joe back in. And I knew he would be very close, if not ahead of me. But just timed it right on the last lap with battery management.
Did you really think that heading from the Azerbaijan, you were starting from pole? But we know Baku has been a race known for attrition, and you've also had the sprint race as well to manage. Did you really think that in that sense you'd have been able to, because you've been relatively unscathed, you were pretty much in a league of your own in this race up until Joe came along. So did you really think you'd have been able to pull this off?
No. Cam should have been on pole, but he binned it on his second lap, had wing damage, wasn't ever going to go any quicker. And then that last lap just came together. So I thought I probably could have got second behind Cam in both the sprint and the feature race, but fortunately for me, he didn't make it past turn 4 in either the sprint or the feature race. And so that opened the door to then me feeling quite comfortable.
I want to ask, because we just had Joe right now, and he's saying, I want more pointy things. Third some points. But he was talking very much about, this is going to be his drop round because of what happened in the sprint. How do you feel about fending off Joe across the season? Because if he going 15 places into second is going to be his drop round, how do you feel is going to be for the rest of the season?
Well, I think it's going to be close. This season suits me. If my internet holds up, which I think for the first time in about 6 months, it actually managed a whole race, which was amazing. If my internet holds up, I will be close. I still think Cam will win the title because he is just the fastest. But it seems like a three-way battle now. If last season was anything to go by in the start of this season. So I think I'm in the mix, but Cam's still favourite.
Well, hopefully Michael Massey won't be taking your router anytime soon. So well done anyway for your first place, your first win of the season. and maybe of many. We'll find out. But thank you very much anyway for the racing. That 1/10 of a second at the end was fantastic. So
Cheers,
enjoy the
guys.
win, enjoy the silverware, and we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah. Cheers. See you next week.
Right. So that's going to be round 1 wrapped up. Wooly taking the win in the sprint race, qualifying, and the feature race to take the full house of wins.
This was the first,
Well,
this was
been
the
a lovely,
first
it's
race
been a
that
lovely
he
race.
was. This was the first race he was as a BSUR committee member. So being a BSUR committee member improves your chances of winning by 100% from this.
Yeah, I'm not testing that. Not testing that at all. I
You're a
feel
race
like if I
organizer.
test that, I'm
You
going to
don't count.
DNF and kill half the field and be like, why is he racing? He should be stewarding. I'm like, okay, bro. Okay. Hey, Wooly, take it what you can. We're not trying to curse you, but maybe.
Josh Woolley dominance will bore fans.
Yeah, Josh Woolley will bore fans or may enjoy fans. We don't know. We'll see what happens later in the season. Depends if his internet gets stolen. I just imagine Michael Massey coming down, roping in, taking the router halfway through the race, him getting DNF'd, him going, what the hell, and realizing suddenly his router is somewhere in Australia. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. It's been a lovely evening for you guys. I hope you enjoy it, and always try and follow our partners below, whether it's NSE, Special Effect, or BUSR itself. Now, we're just about slipping my words there, but do join us on our Discord, of course, if you want to have a go at the action racing in our series, whether it's F1, iRacing, ACC, WRC. Do catch us on there, and of course, follow us on our socials. We have Twitter, now known as X. Go follow us on there. And always, let's try and see us again next week, because we've got, I think Dragon's going to be taking over me next week. So you won't be seeing much of me this season, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And of course, Mir's going to be right here with you for the entire season. So going to keep some action going up.
Get used to it.
Well, awesome. Anyway, thank you very... No worries, Amir. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good evening.
Have a good one.
There is no place and no moment in history where I could stand and say, I wish British